liked by The Sound of Violence.
What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. This is our third annual MMA Podcast Awards, the Sound of Violence Podcast Awards, La Violencias, if you will. That name never worked out. But we are back. I'm Pulver, and I'm here with my co-host, Chris Madaffer, for what is generally one of my favorite episodes of the year. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
buddy, and welcome back
it's always fun just to kind of really just kind of reflect and look back on, well, mainly what's the whole point of our fucking show, right? So we're just kind of just giving that shine to, just our favorites, like we just stated. So should be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty excited about it overall, and it should be a heck of an episode. So
buddy, it's always fun just.
I think this is looping for me. Sorry. Let me fix this fucking thing. This is going to get cut out of the... Why? Oh, that's what's happening. Okay, weird. But I think I fixed that problem. Anyway, so we are going to get into our picks for this show. It's the reason why we do this show in the first place is because... Oh my god, that is just looping. Okay, I think I fixed it. Sorry about that. Fucking live stream problems when we have a new setup. Great start. So, we are going to be going through and giving awards for all kinds of goofy shit. Award shows in general are kind of bullshit. They're super innocuous, and it's all just preferential bullshit. And that's why I like them. I think they're fun. They lead to fun discussions. So... what I want to do is we have some goofy awards, we have some more serious awards, and we're going to get to all of those. But I do want to shout out off the top, the format we're going to be using is the legacy version of the Giant Bomb the Giant Bomb Awards, which is a video game company, or website rather, a video game media outlet, where they go through and they basically just have a discussion. They talk you through like kind of their award picking process. And I find that way more interesting than people just coming on and naming awards. I'm not going to say who I'm talking about when I say that, but let's just say they think Weili Zhang is the female MMA fighter of the year. And got some feels about that. But we're not going to be doing all those boring awards. This is going to be all MMA podcast related, and I'm really excited to get into it. Oh my god, I didn't even crack a beer at the beginning of this, so why don't we start us off back in regular format. We'll get this working again. I'm cracking open Hecadence, which is by Creative Creature. It is a pastry stout with raspberry and marshmallows that I'm pretty fucking excited about. Chris, what are you drinking for the Doug Stanhope Presents, or the Papa Vodka Presents, Doug Stanhope Presents...
this beer makes another return. I got it at Trader Joe's. It was like really, I think it's like $9. That's why I got it. New English Brewing's Blueberry Blonde.
Ooh, tasty. I fucks with it. I need to pick up that beer more. It's one of those ones that I never drink like light blondes generally anyway, but especially fruited blondes. But yeah, it's really good though. It's underrated. I should get it.
Of course, I got to rep multiple koozies. I don't even know where I got this one, but it's like, sure.
Oh, speaking of beer koozies, I do have a backup, a Busch, which is one of my go-to cheap beers, and I do have it in the Sweet Co-main event beer koozie that I'm going to be rocking later. So, pretty excited about that. But okay, well, this is a big show, so why don't we go ahead and get into format. I have a little bit of a trick up my sleeve with our streaming setup. If you guys are watching the video version of this, apart from the chaos in the beginning, that's not going to be on the audio version, we also have boom, the doc we're going to be using for all of the discussions that we're having, so you guys can kind of see. This is basically like the doc we normally use, and you'll be able to see kind of our list of nominees, and we'll go through and start making cuts and try and determine. The way we're going to do this for all of the subcategories is we're going to determine a winner and then 2 runners-up. So we're going to cut the list down to three names or shows or whatever it is, and then from there we're going to go through and make decisions for who's going to get the winning spot on that. And we have a number of topics, including, I can't go through and read them all because you guys are going to see all of the nominees, and I'm not trying to scroll through this doc, but we got a bunch of topics and stuff. We also then, in the second segment, we're going to go through the giant list of MMA podcasts we listened to this year that is going to be slightly cut down already, because I think, what was the actual total? Here, I got it right here. The total number of shows that we talked about this year was in the ballpark of 80.
Okay.
No, that's wrong. 102 shows. And that doesn't count some of the one-off new shows that we listened to as well.
Or, what about shows that may have gone away?
Yeah, there's those too. So, there's actually quite a bit of new shows this year and quite a bit of shows that ended this year, which is interesting. And we'll kind of get to that as we go through this. It's also interesting that I've seen a couple of the shows that I had on the In Memoriam segment all laid out, and they have since announced that they are coming back in 2020. So, pretty excited about that. But why don't we go ahead and get into this? Why don't we start off, Chris, with the first category? Do you want to read off the nominees for Best Guest? And this is Best Guest on a Podcast that is an MMA media member. The reason why I wanted to break this up into different segments is because I feel like a guest on a podcast, especially when it comes to just like regular occurring guests, you tend to see either MMA media, current active fighters, or then kind of just everybody else, which is everybody from coaches to just kind of to former fighters that are sometimes coaches, sometimes not coaches. It gets hard to distinguish, like, okay, well, we're talking Dean Thomas, do I put Dean Thomas in the MMA media category because technically he does have a podcast, or do I put him in the fighter category, but he's not an active fighter, he's more acting in a coach role when he goes on shows? So I've broken this up into MMA media, active fighters, and non-active fighters, which non-active fighters is basically just everybody that doesn't fit into MMA media or active fighters. So I just want to kind of disclose the reasoning behind it, because I feel like they're very different kinds of guests that you hear on shows, and so comparing them is kind of gets to be apples and oranges here and there. So, Chris, why don't you read us off the list of nominees that we have on here for the best guest spot by an MMA media member?
So the nominees for best guest spot by an MMA media member: Aaron Bronstetter from TSN, or TSN's Aaron Bronstetter. MMA Fightings, I believe, Alexander K. Lee.
Yep.
Ant Walker, Co-Main Event Podcast, and as well as The Athletics, Ben Folks. I mean, there's a lot of guys that write for writers that write for The Athletic, at least that they've been transitioning to that. Yep. Brendan Schaub, from, you probably know from, I guess, how does he represent Showtime, right? Yeah. Brett Okamoto, ESPN. Danny Segura is with Vox Media or MMA Fighting?
He was with MMA Fighting. I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know if he's announced where he's at now.
Okay. Casey Layden? I can't recall.
You know EKC. He's been a guest on. He's with MMA Fighting. He's married to Esther Lynn.
Okay.
You've heard him on 8 Side Live Chat a bunch of times.
That's right. Ed Gallo.
Ed Gallo is Ed Gallo is Sherdog, I want to say, maybe. I know he's a member of the Vaping Scooter Gang, and that he has guested on Heavy Hands a couple times this year, which were really good episodes.
Excuse me, MMA Fightings and photographer extraordinaire Esther Lynn, Fernanda Proches
from The Athletic.
The Athletic. James Lynch,
who I believe is still with The Score. I believe. I hope I'm not butchering that.
John Morgan. I apologize. MMA Junkie?
Yep.
Yes, that's okay. John Nash from Bloody Elbow, if I recall.
Yep.
ESPN.
I don't know that John Anik fits on this list, actually. John Anik might have to get moved to our non-active MMA whatever the fuck that other category is. I think I'm going to move him to there. So ignore John Anik for now.
Jordan Breen, and I want to say Sherdog, but that's something I always forget.
Formerly of Sherdog, I believe is with MMA Junkie now.
Okay. Josh Gross.
The Athletic.
Luke Thomas, basically himself.
Showtime, right? I guess.
Or he's Showtime, again, that's right.
But mostly himself.
Matthew Wells.
Yep, Matthew Wells. I think Matt Wells, I know he does articles for people, but I mostly know him from Slip and Dip podcast. And just like working it. I don't know what outlet he's with, actually. I need to look.
Mike Bone, I believe.
Mike Bond, MMA Junkie. The young Mike
MMA
Bond.
Junkie. Nick Baldwin.
Yep, who I believe is also with MMA Junkie nowadays. Oscar
Willis.
From the Mac Life.
Okay. Pete Carroll from MMA Fighting.
Yep.
Rodrigo Del Campo.
Yep, he's with... I do not remember the name of the Mexican outlet that he is with. I don't remember the name of it. But he was great. He had a couple great he had the incredible episode that he did with Fernando Prachis, which was very cool. He's also been on John Morgan's show, the MMA Road Show, in the past as well.
Let's see, Sean Sheehan from MMA Fighting.
From Severe MMA. How dare you?
Severe MMA.
My
Sorry,
gosh, Sean's in chat. He's gonna light you on fire.
Yeah, he's like, "Fuck you, dude." He's like, "We're literally Irish's biggest presence in MMA."
Right. Just because Pete Carroll is with MMA Fighting.
Yeah. I think it's because one of the last times I listened to Eurobash, I think Sean Sheehan was on there, and I always get them confused.
Yeah, I can see that. Very Irish.
Submission Radio's Dennis and Casper.
Yep. From Submission Radio.
And then from Bloody Elbow, Zane Simon.
Correct. And this is a heck of a list. I feel like, paring this down is going to be hard. I feel like there's a couple cuts that we can probably make just off of number of appearances. Like, for example, I think I heard Jordan Breen on guests on one show the entire year. To be fair, it was incredible, like Jordan Breen segments always are. And I wish there was more Jordan Breen audio content nowadays. I miss the fuck out of it. And he will come up again on the awards, but I think in this category, it's probably not the place to put him in this one. Let's see. Some other cuts. I mean, I feel like the first round of cuts can probably just be off of number of appearances, because a lot of these guys I heard have like 2 very good interviews, but I don't know that it sets them apart from.
Did Dennis and Casper frequently guest? Because I know they're pretty much busy with their own thing a lot.
Yeah, they do a lot of their own stuff. They did guest on. They had a great episode with John Morgan of the MMA Road Show.
Yep.
But they were drinking in a bar. Also, Sean Sheehan in chat in all caps yelling, "How dare you!" So
you're welcome.
You go catch those hands next time you're in Ireland.
I've never been to Ireland, so let's do it.
Wow. I was gonna make a terrible joke. I'm running away from it. I think you're right. I think we can probably take Dennis and Casper off this list. While we are big Dennis and Casper fans, I don't know that guests on a podcast is necessarily the place for that.
Let's see. Luke Thomas is on a lot of things.
He is. I feel like he was on less this year than he was previously. But
Brett Okamoto, I think, is frequent. Just because he's a big mouthpiece. For the UFC.
Yeah. Again, though, I feel like both of them kind of didn't do a lot of other people's shows this year.
Let's see. Ben Folks?
Well, so why don't we start... Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, you're right. Ben Folks, I did not... I think I only heard him guest on... I know he was on MMA Roadshow. He was actually on the same MMA Roadshow episode as Dennis and Casper in Australia at the bar, which was a really good one. Yeah, I think we can probably take Ben Folks off. I think in that same notion, we can probably also take off... who was the other person we were just talking about? I think we can take Brett Okamoto off. He guested a couple times, but I feel like he mostly is just doing kind of more anchor work and ESPN work than he is guesting on podcasts as much nowadays. I feel like we used to hear him a lot more back when he was doing his own show at ESPN before the merger. Or not merger, but before the acquisition. So I'll move him down. Also, feel free to disagree with me on any of these if you do. Why don't we start moving some people up? So who are some people that you think absolutely have to be on the list?
Oh, like no matter what.
Yeah.
Let's see. John Morgan for sure. Luke Thomas for sure.
So John Morgan, just because he's consistently solid and guests on a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say Sean Sheehan or Pizza as well, because I know Sean was on Submission Radio.
Yeah,
I think one or two times.
I think both of them should get moved up. Yeah, Sean Sheehan was on Submission Radio a bunch of times. Really, really good ones. Also, who was the other person that you just mentioned?
Pizza Carroll.
Yeah, PT's guest spots on A-Side Live Chat this year were super fucking good.
Or as my nickname for him was Pizza Carroll, because the accent, the first time I heard him say pizza, I'm like, who the fuck is Pizza Carroll?
That's right, Pizza Carroll.
And I'm like, oh, Pete. I'm like, really because they don't want to call him Pete Carroll, because that's the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, is that why? I don't know if that's why.
I don't know. I'm just saying that. Maybe I doubt it, but maybe they do, just because, I don't know, if there's a lot of American listeners, they'd be very confused.
Yeah, maybe. So. I wouldn't have noticed, but then again, I'm a fucking filthy casual when it comes to sticking.
But again, those are two common first and last names, though. So
for sure. Yeah. Aaron Bronstetter, I don't know that he guested on a ton of stuff this year, did he?
I don't think so.
Let me pull up my secret list.
I recall Aaron Bronstetter. I'm pretty sure I know what he looks like because I've seen him multiple times in interviews. But I like his work, but I think every time I see his thumbnail when there's like something submitted on our MMA, it looks like the actor Tony Hale who plays Buster Bluth.
I love Tony Hale. He is very funny.
I think that's Aaron Bronstetter's like. Yes, I think. Yeah. He kind of looks like Tony Hale.
That's
because I remember people.
I never put that together.
Someone would be like, "Why the fuck is Buster Bluth reporting right now?" or some shit.
That's fucking offensive, but also kind of hilarious. Also, I'm a big Aaron Bronstetter fan. Yeah, you know what? Aaron did guest on. I know he was on Between the Links. He did have a couple good guest spots here and there. I don't know that he's going to make the top of this list. Alexander K. Lee, I think, also is probably on that same list where I really liked Alexander K. Lee's guest spots on that show has changed so many times, A-Side Live Chat. But I don't know that it's going to hang with the top of the list, so we'll pull those as well. Let's see. We're getting into it now. Let me keep a line. Ant Walker, I loved Ant Walker. Specifically, my favorite guest spot of Ant Walker's was the MMA Roadshow episode where he is clearly drunk with John Morgan and cold coffee at a karate combat event because they're not actually covering it. So they're just there enjoying the open bar, and it's real fucking fun. I believe Ant Walker in that episode said he asked for a cup of Jack from the bartender, which is a great way to order drinks. But there weren't a bunch of other standout guest spots that I remember of his, but they were real good. So let's see. Is there anybody? I mean, okay, I can go ahead and take Brendan Schaub off because that's a hilarious joke that I did, but fucking.
What are you talking about? He's a drawl for sure, B.
A drawl. Yeah, no, oh my god, that motherfucker. I mean, to be fair, the only thing he's guested on this year that's notable that I can think of is just Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
And boy, does guesting on Rogan's podcast not do much for me if you're Brendan Schaub or I mean, it's barely about MMA, and then when it is, it's just Brendan Schaub arguing that if you're not in the UFC, nobody knows who you are, and that Douglas Lima would get smoked by everybody in the world, evidently. So we can go ahead and take Brendan Schaub off because that was a joke answer anyway. Let's see. Why don't we see? Is there anybody else on the list that we have to move up? So going through these, Danny Seguro, really, really good guest spots. I feel like there weren't a ton of them. Mostly because I feel like the guest spots he did have towards the beginning of the year were all A-Side Live Chat related. And then I feel like we haven't seen a ton from him after he left MMA fighting. So I think
he's...
Go ahead. I think we can probably take him and Casey off. While I enjoy Casey's fire takes, I don't know that I don't know that it's going to make the cut. I think the top of this list is looking pretty fucking tough.
I think that's good for now. At least, I mean, maybe pick like just one more, because if we
That's
just
what
keep
I'm
doing
thinking.
process, if we keep doing process elimination, it's gonna take fucking forever.
Well, this is gonna take forever anyway. I hope y'all have a drink ready, because this is gonna be a heck of a thing. And good night to Sean Sheehan, not of MMA fighting. To be fair, it is fucking, I'm sure, the middle of the goddamn morning over there. But he may come up later on this episode of the show. So I think the only other person that I would really make an argument for on this list, like, I loved Ed Gallo's guest spots on Heavy Hands. It was only the 2 guest spots, and I didn't hear him on a ton of other things. So I don't know necessarily that's going to cut it. The only person I would say definitely, I think, needs to be on this list out of this group, Oscar Willis was on. I think he was on the most episodes that we talked about. A lot of that is because of all of his guest spots on MMA Roadshow.
Oh yeah.
But he was on a ton. I think he literally had the most, like, by the numbers. I think he was the guest that had the most. I like Oscar Willis a lot. I don't necessarily know that I would pick him over the rest of the people on this list. So I do also want to give a quick shout out though to I talked about Rodrigo Del Campo's episode with Esther Lynn. That was really, really good. And John Nash has just been killing it guesting on all the Bloody Elbow shows. Specifically, he did. I guess he's technically a member on Care Don't Care. I think, like, that always changes all the time because kid name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I like our top 4. So now we gotta cut one, and then we gotta figure out a winner. So let's see.
So it's obviously it's one winner, and how many runners up? Like 2.
Yep, we gotta narrow it down to 3. Boy, this is where it gets tough. I'm gonna say it. I don't think Luke Thomas belongs on this list.
All right, that works.
I don't know that he guessed on enough stuff. Like, do you have an argument for why he should be?
Yeah, I guess not really, because he already has his own, like, Sirius XM show, and then he has his like own podcast, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, what are some
YouTube channel?
Yeah, are there any, like, memorable Luke Thomas guest spots that you heard this year that you remember?
Dude, I have such a terrible memory with most of that shit, to be honest.
Me too, and we listened to a ton of stuff, which does not help. Yeah, I'm having trouble even thinking of, like, I know he guested on Submission Radio a couple times, and those are always good. And I know he's done stuff for, I mean, yeah, that's mostly what I'm thinking about it. I mean, I know he's done, like, one-off stuff here and there. So I think out of those 4, the strongest guests consistently have been John Morgan, Sean Sheehan, and Pete Carroll.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we now have our top 3, and now we got to figure out who's taking this shit home. Man, it's tough. It's real tough.
I think I'd go. Let me go John Morgan for my winner.
Really? So which guest, like, what guest spots stand out that you remember?
It was Submission Radio. He was really good on. Mm-hmm. Especially when he was talking to Casper and Dennis, I think, about what he was doing in Australia. I think he was on the last one I could remember. I think he was on with, like, the Whitaker card with Adesanya, I believe.
That could be right. I know he was in Australia during
don't
that time.
Don't quote me on that.
I know that during that same time they were on his podcast.
Okay.
But I know he guested on theirs a couple of times throughout the year. Which, ironically, this shows. I think this is the second year in a row where it is at least more than half of the top of the list are Submission Radio guests.
Yeah,
because last year, I believe, if I remember right, it was John Morgan, Sean Sheehan.
I think it's the way they have their platform set up.
It's really good.
The way it's kind of designed. It's just more. It's really accessible.
Yeah, and their interviews are
for guests of any medium, with your...
Yeah, and their interviews are really solid. They get people to talk, just not like ones and twos about fight week kind of stuff. Man. So
now you got to choose between the two Irishmen.
Well, no. I mean, it's tough. So I would say the best Pete Carroll guest spots are definitely the A-Side live chat stuff he did.
Yeah,
he fucking lit that show on fire every time he was on it. Much in the same way Casey Leiden did, but in a just like he brought the fucking party to those. I feel like to those episodes. He also threw some fucking fire as well out there, talking shit about some of the way some stuff was being handled. Yeah, Pete. Oh man. And then Sean's guested on a bunch of stuff. Of course, Submission Radio are the go-tos that I would think of for Sean Sheehan guest spots. I know he's also done some stuff for Ariel as well. As a matter of fact, I think, spoiler alert, I believe he's on Ariel's show this upcoming week, if I remember right. I'm assuming talk about the fight that will not be named and will not be discussed next week. I think. I'm really excited to see the card headlined by Holly Holm and Raquel Pennington, though. I'm very excited about that.
To be honest, like now that you mentioned that, if you ask me right now who else was on this card, and John Morgan made a good point of it today, I have no fucking clue, except for my cousin.
Yeah, your cousin and then the Irish sports star.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man.
By the way, I'm grilling at my house. I'm buying the pay-per-view, so more than welcome to. Yeah.
So here's the thing. I don't know that John Morgan's guest spots. I'm a little surprising myself in this one. I think I might have to be leaning towards Pete Carroll.
I like that. That's a good choice.
The problem is I really like Pete a lot. I just his guest spots on A-Side Live Chat were very fucking good. And I believe he also was on one of Ariel's various fucking shows throughout the year as well, if I remember right. I really like Sean Sheehan's guest spots. I don't know that they're as strong as some of the content that he put out on his own, though, like through Submission Radio specifically. So I don't know. How do you convince me on John Morgan over Pete Carroll?
Yeah, I mean, if Pete Carroll's more frequent, then he's probably got to be the winner, right?
Nah, it doesn't have to be number of appearances. I don't think that's the way to do it, because like a lot of these guests.
I could probably lean Carroll though, because the ones that were meaningful to me when he guested on was A-Side was when it had to do with like the PFL stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a lot more European fighters in PFL, and in comparison to European fighters in the UFC and the bigger promotions.
Yeah, and stuff like Bellator,
that and Bellator
Cage
coverage.
Warriors.
Yeah,
yep.
Cage Warriors. I feel like Cage Warriors. What's the biggest presence? English and Irish. I mean, your Irish sports star, he kind of helped put Cage Warriors, I'm not gonna say on the map because they've been their own thing, but
yeah, they've been
brought
around
attention
forever,
to them.
But yeah, it definitely that promotion blew up because of SPG guys early on, even though they're now mostly with Bellator. I don't know. So, how do you feel about Pete over John Morgan?
I like it.
All right, I think it's decided. Pete Carroll. With honestly kind of the underdog spot. I did not, going into this, I did not think I was going to have PC. But evidently I do. So we're going to give the winner of best guest or best MMA media member guest on a podcast in 2019 to Pete Carroll.
I'll say this. If you're on Twitter right now, Pete Carroll's not trending, but Pete Carroll, the coach of the Seahawks, is trending because he chose to fucking punt the ball with 2 minutes left in the game, down 5 to the Packers, and they lost. So good on you, Pete Carroll. However, Pete Carroll, you're a winner to us.
That's right. And big shouts out to the runners-up, John Morgan and Sean Sheehan.
Yep.
They both had fantastic guest spots on multiple shows throughout the year. I really enjoyed it. I honestly, the main reason I have Pizza over them is I liked the content they did on their own platforms better than some of their guest spots. I think part of that's just up to them not having as many guest spot opportunities as I'd like to see. So everybody get fucking John Morgan, Pizza Carroll, and Sean Sheehan on your podcast next year. God damn it. We need more of them.
Yes.
All right. So now, why don't we get into the next category? I do see that there's been some fun editing on that one, so that's interesting. We are going to get into...
I won't read it like that. I'll be serious on these, but it's just for fun for us.
The next one is the best non-fighter guest, and it has active in parentheses because I included retired fighters or fighters who are not currently fighting on there. Again, this is kind of just a catch-all category. You'll see everybody from commentators. Oh, by the way, this is where John Anik gets added back on. This is everybody from commentators to ex-fighters to coaches to fucking Lenny Hart to lawyers like Lucas Middlebrook. Basically a catch-all for everybody else. So, Chris, why don't you go through the nominees on this one?
All right, the nominees. Probably the manager in mixed martial arts with probably the most I don't know how to explain this. A lot of great fighters this guy manages.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say the guy with the most assault cases against him.
Well, that too. Ali Abdelaziz is a nominee for best non-fighter guest.
Oh, weird! It looks like on the doc it says Ali Abdelaziz. That's weird.
Damn it! You ruined it. Oh, look! See, I could add some more stuff too. Watch. So, next up is retired and former heavyweight champion of UFC, Bas Rutten, a legend in not just Dutch kickboxing but mixed martial arts as a whole.
Yep.
One of the best commentators around, not really, but one of the best referees for sure. Big John McCarthy. Let's see, shots fired. Don't kill me. Let's see, Brendan Fitzgerald, who commentates for the UFC, unless I'm getting mixed with someone else.
You got it right.
Dan Hardy, love his breakdowns on the UFC's YouTube channel with John Gooden. Tomato Face himself, Dana White. Dean Thomas, former UFC fighter and fantastic head coach at American Top Team. Eddie Bravo, speaking of another fantastic head coach.
Eddie Bra.
Another fantastic head coach in a row, Eugene Barriman. Barriman at Top Kick. Fuck, what's it called?
Yeah, Top Kick. You got it.
Top Kick.
City
Top
Kickboxing.
Kick No, it is City. I was going to say Top City Kickboxing, and I was almost there, but I was like, top. But, today, Junior. Yeah, Eugene Barriman.
Yeah.
Wow, look at this. All these great head coaches in a row. Faraz Sahabi.
Yep.
Of TriStar in Montreal, Canada. Forrest Griffin, former UFC light heavyweight champion, and great personality in general.
Yeah, an ambassador for the UFC PI, I believe.
Graham Boylan.
Graham Boylan is the promoter for Cage Warriors.
Okay. Greg Jackson of famed gym Jackson Winklejohn.
Yep.
Herb Dean.
Yep.
Great referee. Great person to listen to in interviews. Javier Mendez, fantastic head coach of AKA in San Jose, California. Jean-Jacques Machado, I know he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. Isn't he also like Joe Rogan and a bunch of other people's coach? I can't remember.
Yeah. I believe he Rogan and Eddie, if I remember right.
Oh, that's right. John Gooden, speaking of which, works for the UFC and ESPN, when they're in Europe.
Yep.
Or UFC Europe. John Anik, commentator, basically the main commentator, really. Color commentator.
Not color, the other one. Play-by-play.
Play-by-play. Thank you. I always get those confused. I should know that because I'm a big baseball guy, too.
Yeah.
Justin Buchholz, I don't think he's I was about to say of Team Alpha Male, but I'm pretty sure he left there a while ago.
Yeah, no, he had some fucking fire guest spots on podcasts shitting on Alpha Male.
I gotta go back and listen to those again because it's very interesting in hindsight, considering where a lot of those Alpha Male guys are at now. Looking at you, Mark Henry.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I'm probably gonna say this. It's either Lenny Hart or
Nailed it. Lenny Hart. Oh man,
Okay.
you are such a goddamn new fan. Lenny Hart, or as everyone else would know her, the Pride Lady. She is the Pride announcer with the crazy shrill voice.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And yeah, she had a really good interview on, I believe, We Are Rising is the podcast that she was on. It's fucking really good.
That reminds me, someone posted on Reddit a couple of weeks ago. They're like, check out Patricky Pitbull's awesome intro to Ryzen, and it was like the Dragon Ball theme song. It's see, so I always talk about my intro would be the Space Jam theme. I would definitely be having to be fighting in Japan because I would have all the graphics, and it would basically just be highlights of Michael Jordan. It'd be great.
I was gonna say, just a bunch of fucking him and Newton from whatchamacallit. That was a real. I got a real spit take, y'all.
You mean Newman?
I knew it was wrong.
You're like Newton, why. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, Wayne Knight. That's his name. That's the actor's name.
I knew it was Wayne, but I knew Wayne Newton was wrong, so that's how I ended up at Newton.
That would have been funny though. Wayne Newton, Vegas' own.
That's right.
Lucas Middlebrook. I know I've seen that name a lot of times.
He's the lawyer who with Project Spearhead, and also the lawyer for. Is he? I don't remember if Lucas Middlebrook is also the one working with Jessica Penne or not. I don't believe so, but I know for a fact he's the one who worked a lot with Leslie Smith during the Project Spirit.
Speaking of Jessica Penne, rest in peace to her MMA career.
Jesus
Thanks,
Christ,
USADA.
What a fucking shame.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Mark Henry. Speaking of head coach, is it Ricardo Almeida's fight team? I don't know what the actual name.
I never know
of that thing is called.
It's the gym in Jersey.
Yeah, it's like in Tom's River, Jersey.
Yeah.
And Frankie Edgar's there. Eddie Alvarez is still there.
Yeah, Mark Henry.
Edson Barboza is not there anymore.
All the there was a Brazilian exodus.
Marlon Moraes is still there.
Nope. ATT.
No? Oh, no, he went to ATT with Barboza. That's right, he followed him there. Wow, okay. But who's there now? Cody Garbrandt is now a member of Mark Henry's team, as well as Lance Palmer. Yes, Lance Palmer's there. Yeah, he went there with Cody. They're both Ohio. And they were also both at Alpha Male. Mm-hmm. So yeah, his gym got interesting. I think it's better for Cody that he's there, but that's just me. Let's see, and he fights soon too, huh? Who the fuck's he fighting? Yeah. Oh, a Sunsao. Will be interesting in Columbus, Ohio. All right. Anyways, moving on. Another great head coach, Mike Brown of American Top Team.
Yep.
Mike Winklejohn of Jackson Wink. Paddy Holohan of his own, former Irish fighter in the UFC and in other promotions, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, and actually a current politician in Ireland.
That's right. Phil Daru.
Yeah, strength and conditioning coach for ATT.
Okay. One of my favorite social medias to follow.
Uncle Hinato
Laranja. Always hilarious. The Valley Tudo podcast.
That's right, for all you Laranjinos out there.
Ricardo Almeida of the Ricardo Almeida fight team with Mark Henry. I don't know the real name of that. I'm sorry. In Jersey. Ricardo Laborio. I've heard that name so many times.
He is, I'm going to fuck this up. He is with Is he with American Top Team? I know the problem is there's been like 4 versions of Top Teams that he has been with, and also they were splinters of other gyms. You know him for the main interview that I heard with him that I really liked was the one on Robert Whitaker's podcast, Grange TV. He had a really good episode on it.
Rosie Sexton of
former UFC fighter and current person who's working politics adjacent in the UK.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, Saif Sayud is with Fortis MMA?
Correct. Head coach.
That's right. Yes. Okay. Glad I got that one right, because I'm like, I know this guy. I've heard his name.
Saif has been killing it.
Yeah. All right, I guess I said his name wrong. I said Saif. I don't know how to...
It's okay. Everybody butchers it, and I'm still not convinced I say it right. So,
Scott Coker, the head of Bellator. Shannon Knapp, she's also at Bellator.
No, how dare you? The promoter for Invicta.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Stephen Wright.
Yeah, Stephen the Warman Wright, who is the striking coach. Everybody knows him as the former striking coach for Johnny Hendricks. He also does the Warman Kickfighting podcast. Just like all around super knowledgeable dude when it comes to kickboxing and a great coach.
Trevor Whitman of what is it, like 365? No. That's in Florida.
Trevor Whitman is Elevation.
I know he's in Denver. Right? It is Elevation, right?
I think so. I always mix up the Denver camp names.
No, it's not Elevation.
See, I do this every time.
Yeah, no. Elevation was the other guy. That was the Muscle Farm gym. Fuck, I always forget. It starts with a C though. It's called like something Colorado or. But yeah, Rudge? He's the head coach of like
Rudge
Gaethje.
Is the old
he's the head coach of Gaethje and Rose Namajunas and a couple other fighters that are up there too.
Yeah, I for some reason cannot remember. I can't remember.
Will Harris of Anatomy of a Fighter, great channel. Yeah,
great episode on Joe Rogan.
Oh shit, I gotta check it out.
Yeah, really
and Eve Edwards,
also San Diego resident. Shouts out to Will Harris.
I don't know that.
Moved back down here.
Oh, cool. So let's see. I just realized this since our episode is going to be really fucking long.
Yep, we're going to make mad cuts on this one. Why don't we?
And just like for example, right now I already have to piss.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Well, so
why?
I guess you should. Here, I'll mute my shit.
Yeah, you go. I'll
start doing process of elimination, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I will be right the fuck back.
All right. So the way I'm going to do this is. I mean, we can go ahead and eliminate Ali. That was. I like to do joke answers here and there, and that might have been one of them. Let's see. So a lot of these are going to get cut because they didn't have a lot of guest spots. Boss Rutan, a good example. I think he was only on Submission Radio from what I listened to. He might have been on other stuff. Big John, he had some guest spots. He had a good episode with. Who was the episode he did? Josh Gross for Gross Point Blank. He had a really good episode with him where he went after MMA media. Also Aaron Bronstetter, where Big John just went after MMA media for not sticking up for people like Loretta Hunt and Josh Gross, which fucking love that shit. Brendan Fitzgerald had some good guest spots. I would argue his podcast is probably more the place I would put him in the list rather than a guest spot on a podcast. But he was really good. I will say, I'm just going to go ahead and pull some of the ones that I absolutely think need to be there. Dean Thomas, some fucking incredible guest spots, specifically his Between Rounds stuff, where he was on the Between Rounds roundtables. Really, really insightful. Super informative. Also, he had some really good guest spots on UFC Unfiltered, which, of course, he's just clowning the shit out of Matt Serra the entire time. And it's really fucking funny. Edgy Bra. I love Edgy Bra. I do not love Edgy Bra because of his fucking... his MMA takes are rarely happening on guest spots. The last thing that he's usually talking about is MMA outside of, like, an upcoming fight here and there. Let's see. Some other people who stand out. Eugene Behrman had some really good interviews, but I feel like they were too far... Like, they were too sparse, rather, to put it at the top of the list. Honestly, I think Justin Buchholz has to be on the list. Even if it's just for his interview that he did with Aaron Bronstetter, where he lit the world on fire and just trashed the shit out of everybody. The way he went after Alpha Male in that interview is pretty incredible, and he has also just kind of been fiery as fuck. He had some MMA Junkie Radio stuff as well that just really solid interviews and pretty wild shit to say. So I would put him in the top portion of this list. Chris, is there anybody that's standing out to you that we should move up?
Excuse me.
Because again, we're not going by like most appearances or most appearances we even talked about.
I mean, selfishly, I'd put Uncle Hanach up there, especially when he's like on Adam Hunter's. When he's appeared on there a couple times.
Yeah, okay, you're right. I was just thinking, like, I don't know that I've heard him guest on a lot of stuff, but yeah, no, the MMA roasted stuff, him talking to Deanna Bennett, trying to tell her the date he would take her on, is fucking gold.
Yeah, and I think when he was talking to Colby, that was pretty hilarious too.
It was very, especially since he didn't really know who Colby was, or no, it was Mayhem that didn't know who Colby was, and
that's right.
Notch was going back and forth. It's good stuff.
I
would put Patty Houlihan up there because of his interview that he did with Eurobash, I believe it was, where he's talking pretty openly about some of the problems with John Kavanaugh and the falling out there. And
that's right. That's right.
It was a really interesting interview, and I think it was one of the better episodes I've heard. I heard him on a couple other things as well. I want to say it was maybe some aerial content or something. But yeah, I think he was consistently a very solid guest.
Let's see. So should we keep this to like 5 total, just to make it easier, right?
Yeah, 5-ish. I mean, if there's anybody else that we feel like need to be on there.
Okay. I want to say Boss Rutan.
I don't know that he had enough guest
but
spots,
yeah, that's
or
a
like
good point.
anything that stands out enough. You know, like the thing that stands out to me the most is Boss Rutan talking about being on all the drama surrounding that bare knuckle fighting organization and like his sketchy involvement with it and fighters not getting paid.
Let's see.
Trevor Whitman, I feel like while he did have some some pretty solid guest spots here and there on podcasts, I feel like his best work that I've heard has been actually on broadcasts. So I wouldn't necessarily
when he's doing like the coach's corner thing.
Yeah, I love that shit.
Yeah, I like that how they came up with that.
Yeah. Similarly, Mike Brown. I fucking love Mike Brown, and I wish I heard more of that dude, but I feel like I didn't hear enough to put him on there. Same with guys like John Anik, who I feel like is mostly on there because of his really good Submission Radio episodes. Graham Boylan was spitting some fire, but also Graham Boylan. I'm always hesitant to put promoters on there for interviews because promoters, number one, should be giving good interviews, and number two, I feel like the quality of their interviews are generally like kind of forced. I would say Eve Edwards. We should.
That's what I was thinking.
Because Eve put out some is a very consistently solid guest on podcasts, and
so I say let's decide between these 5.
Yeah, I think so too. I do want to give shouts out to Stephen Wright, who I again wish there was more Stephen Wright content in the universe. I love his show. There's rumors of his show going to Between Rounds, which I'm very excited about. So that'll be cool, but I don't know that that's going to cut it. And similarly with Safe Saud and Eugene Behrman, like I love hearing from those guys. I wish we heard more from them, and I think we will in the future, but I don't know that their guest spots stand out above the other ones.
Let's see.
All right, so we need to cut 2 of these. Man, this is really hard.
Buckholes had some spicy. Him and Houlihan had some spicy shit.
Yeah,
to say.
super spicy. Fucking, especially Buckholes.
As much as I like him, I'd probably still get rid of Uncle Notch, mostly because I think he's better on his own platform. Yeah. He's funny regardless, but
yeah, he seems like he doesn't quite hang with the rest of this group. Man, these are really, really tough. So here's the thing. Man, but I really like Eve Edwards. The problem is a lot of Eve Edwards guest spots were on MMA Junkie. And so that kind of limits the amount of, because there was so much format to that show back when they were doing day to day. That like you would get cool segments from Eve, but there was also just a lot of like, let's hear about Gorgeous George's fucking traffic that he had to deal with or whatever. Or like a lot of PFL talk, which like, while I like the PFL, Eve Edwards talking about the PFL is not necessarily why I'm a big Eve Edwards fan and why I like his guest spots. So I think maybe we cut Eve from the top 3. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
To be fair, again, like we like if you made it to the list, we like you, unless you're the one bald manager keeps assaulting people, then maybe not so much. Also, shouts to Seamus clacking in the background.
Shouts out to Baby Yoda.
That's right. Yo, my dog does kind of look like Baby Yoda for real, right? Like the really, really itchy corgi version of Baby Yoda. All right, so we got our top three, which is Dean Thomas, Justin Buchholz, and Patty Houlihan. And now you understand why I call this best non-active fighter guest, because if this category is normally just best non-fighter guest, but all three of these are former fighters, so that's why this category is titled the way it is. So out of these three, man, it's tough because Dean Thomas just consistently put out good work, whereas Justin Buchholz put out, I think, 2 or 3 super fiery guest spots, and Patty had the one fiery guest spot.
I think I'm gonna go with Justin Buchholz.
Really?
Mostly also because it was like the timing with the whole when excuse me, I can't even fucking talk. When Cody Garbrandt was fighting Cejudo a year ago, and then they kind of just kept talking. I think that was right when he left.
Yeah, it was around that time.
It was like really good timing.
Yeah. Yeah, man, his guest spot on Aaron Bronstedter's show was...
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
Yeah, it's so fire. It's crazy fire. Like, he lights that entire gym up for all the fucked up things that were going on. And and a lot of it kept coming through more and more after that than it was at the time even. Because, like, he was talking about how Calvillo is the only one with wins, basically, after he left. And he's still working with Calvillo, which I think he's still working with Calvillo at this point. Pretty sure, but... Yeah, you know what? I gotta agree with you. I love Patty Houlihan's episode on Eurobash, but I don't know... I feel like Justin put out more because Justin's been on a couple other podcasts as well. Like he was on MMA Junkie during the year, also just spitting crazy fire. So as much as I think he definitely over Patty, and then Dean Thomas put out some fucking like by far the funniest of the three is Dean Thomas. Dean Thomas is super underrated in my opinion. Especially when it comes to media work. Like, that dude is very, very funny, and he is very clever. And he says some fucking hilarious shit, especially when he's making fun of Matt Serra. But yeah, I think we have to give it to Buchholz just for his unabashed honesty about his even if it's not necessarily true, if you ask, like, Uriah or whatever, just that dude's willingness to put himself out there and say things that he thought were fucked up that were happening.
Yeah.
It's kind of a must listen if Justin Buchholz is on a podcast at this point. So I will go ahead and move Justin Buchholz up as the winner for Best Non-Active Fighter Guest on a MMA podcast in 2019. It should also be noted, just because we nominate somebody does not mean we believe that they're terrible statements on Twitter at all have anything to do with any of this, and it does not mean we necessarily like them as a person. Justin Buchholz has said some fucking not great things on Twitter this year, including just like kind of shitting on women fighters more than needs to happen. So I don't know. I feel like I should acknowledge that, but god damn it, he put out some fire content. So that is for our winner for best non in parentheses active fighter guest. We have Justin Buchholz with runners-up Dean Thomas and Patty Houlihan. Oh, all right. So up next we got best fighter guest.
This one is interesting, and I'll name off these fighters.
Yeah, why don't you go through the list while I let Seamus outside because he keeps kicking the shit out of this door. And go through it.
So best fighter guest, meaning best guest on a podcast who is currently a fighter in mixed martial arts.
Correct.
Starting with and I'll if I can, I'll just attribute what promotion they're with. Most of these are UFC, but here we go. So Raging Ally Quinta, lightweight in the UFC, UFC featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski, UFC bantamweight contender Aljamain Sterling, UFC flyweight contender, women's flyweight contender Andrea KGB Lee, also former Nazi lover. I'm sorry, I have to call you out because you blocked us on Twitter. One of our favorites of just in general, Angie Overkill Hill, a UFC straw. Is she a strawweight still? I think so. Yeah. Anthony Smith, light heavyweight contender to the UFC. Aspen Ladd, she fights at women's 135, I believe. Ben Askren, who retired this year, he is a fun personality. You're probably hearing us mention him once again. Another personality, maybe not so more on the hilarious side, but, well, it depends given the context. Colby Chaos Covington. Let's see. We got Corey Anderson, who's at UFC's light heavyweight. Darren Till, newly minted middleweight title contender, which is crazy. Crazy in that it was it's just such a short amount of time. Interesting personality for sure. Diego Sanchez. Got Dominic Cruz, one of our favorites, of course. Dominic Reyes. Francis Ngannou, who nobody wants to fight except for Jairzinho Rozenstruik, evidently. We got rising welterweight contender, or at least my opinion, future title contender, Jeff Neal. We got UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, the last style bender. We got UFC middleweight contender Jack Hermanson, UFC middleweight contender Jared Cannonier, UFC featherweight Jeremy Stevens. I believe she's at flyweight. UFC flyweight Jessica Rose Clark. She might be strawweight.
No, you're right.
I know those are
And oh boy, is this list long, huh?
Yep. UFC flyweight Joanne Calderwood. UFC light heavyweight Johnny Walker. Holder of the one-off BMF title Jorge Masvidal. UFC lightweight title contender Justin Gaethje. UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman, or some might know him as Marty Usman. Doesn't matter to him. Well, maybe it does, unless you're Colby.
I mean, they did call him Marty from Nebraska, as he explained on Rogan's podcast.
That's true. UFC lightweight contender Kevin Lee, or GS Lee, whatever you want to call him now. UFC welterweight title contender and infamously known for receiving a three-piece Minnesota, Leon Edwards. Leslie Smith, one of our favorites for obvious reasons.
Bellator 145.
Yep. That's right. Liz Carmouche.
Also Bellator fighter.
135er still?
Oh, yeah, 30. I don't know if she's 25 or 35 over there.
I would imagine 35.
Probably.
She's ripped. UFC women's bantamweight? Macy Sassone? Or
I thought you were talking about Luke Rockhold for a second. No, I believe she's still banned.
Oh, I forgot him. Sorry, Luke. He's not retired, but he is a model for Ralph Lauren,
That's
Luke
right.
Rockhold.
Also, he did have a guest spot this year, which included the phrase "Jan fucking Blachowicz," which just is.
I mean, if I had his looks, I would retire from fighting a long time ago, but that's just me.
I wouldn't have started fighting if I looked like that. I'd be too busy drowning in vagina. There's probably a better way to phrase that now that I think about it.
Yeah, a little bit, but let's just say he wears scuba gear. All right.
Sure.
We got Marlon Moraes, Magic Man, Krillin, One Punch Man, whatever you want to call him. UFC bantamweight title contender. UFC strawweight, Michelle Watterson. Maybe future atomweight. I saw some rumor that they're going to introduce the atomweight division.
I wish, but I don't think it's going to happen.
UFC lightweight contender Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon. Phil DeFries fighting out of
KSW, former UFC fighter.
Former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whitaker, also known as Bobby Knuckles. UFC featherweight Sadiq Youssef.
That's a good question. What weight class is Sadiq at? I don't remember off the top of my head.
I believe he's a featherweight, if I were to guess.
You nailed it.
UFC's nicest motherfucker in the game, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Yep.
Tai Tuivasa, Mr. Shuey himself, UFC heavyweight. And Mr. Maga, a.k.a. God Made Me a Tool, Tito Ortiz.
That's right. The OG Colby Covington.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is basically a list of everybody who had a solid guest spot. We're going to cut 90% of this list.
I'll give you two of my top five already.
Okay, give me two.
Colby and Jorge.
Interesting, because Colby actually was mentioned most Out of all
I
the
think
episodes we talked about.
no matter what, I honestly think he just has to be up there because someone made a point. Go look at all the videos of like how many views whenever Colby's there. It's pretty high, and yes, he has a shit ton of haters, and that's mostly why. But there's probably a surprising amount of MAGA people out there, whether they want to believe his shtick or they do. And they're like, hell yeah, MAGA.
Yeah, I do think that's part of it. I also think it's the fact that he has gotten so much coverage compared to everybody else.
Yep.
Like, Colby was on fucking, like, going back and looking at some of the shows we did, he was on way more shows than any other fighter. And a lot of it's MMA, guys like MMA Junkie and Ariel and people like that who just pushed that narrative so fucking much.
This one will probably go past 5. I want to include Ben Askren.
Sure. Yeah, he had some real... I mean, his... Up until that Masvidal fight, Askren's guest spot game was complete fire.
Other than that...
let's see. Anthony Smith had that incredible Hinato Laranja episode.
That was hilarious.
He also had a really good episode... Or he had a really good segment on MMA fighting... No. MMA Hour, back when it was hosted by Luke Thomas, which was still this year, which, wow, that seems like a long time ago. But he was on there talking about the lead up to the Gus fight and how he would just, like, didn't sit well with him, the John Jones stuff. I think without a doubt, Israel has to be on this list.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
If I were to just choose one more, which I could, it's doable.
Because there's going to be more than that.
Okay, put Ally Quinta on there then, just because his personality alone, and he kind of says it as it is.
Yep.
Other than that,
I would say Jessica Rose Clark for her guest spots on Phone Booth Fighting were all so good. And also all of the stuff that she's doing Wimp to Warrior, like hearing her and Richard go back and forth about how she made Richard Hunter fight a fucking dude that's 6'7" in Wimp to Warrior.
I want to put Dominic Cruz, but I kind of feel like he'd be there almost every other year regardless.
Yeah, and that's kind of a homer pick, I feel like, on our part, too. Because he wasn't on a ton of stuff. So.
Yeah, no, not this year. I really like Jared Cannonier is interesting. He had some good interviews.
Oh, my God, yeah. No, you know what? We have to include Jared Cannonier for his crystal talk alone.
Yeah, the power of the crystals.
Oh, my God, the Earth Minerals, dog.
Yeah.
Usman has to be on there, if for no other reason. His fucking his interview with Rogan was fucking incredible. I think Kevin Lee, same reason.
Yeah.
Because they both they were on a bunch of shows, but specifically their Rogan appearances were both.
I think this would be good if we had it here.
Yeah, I think so too. I like Robert Whitaker, but I think a lot of his best stuff was probably on his own platform.
Yeah, I agree.
Leslie Smith, I would put on this list, but I mean, essentially, I don't know if you've looked at the branding for this show, but I would put Leslie Smith in every category and she would win. So I'm trying to be.
If I were to tell you right now, just by looking at this, like say who's your top 3, so winner runner up between these 3, I think the winner runner.
Well, so wait, why don't we before you say that? Why don't we go through and say what we got so far for the top of the list?
So we have Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, Ben Askren, Israel Adesanya, Ally Quinta, Jessica Rose Clark, Jared Cannonier, Kamaru Usman, and Kevin Lee.
Yeah. I would like to do an honorable mention for Angie Hill, who she was fantastic on Menace and the Man with that interview with her and Jessica Penne on Menace and the Man was really good. Also, she was fantastic on the Between Rounds Beatdown After the Bell episode for the Invicta Phoenix Rising tournament, the first one. Those were really good, so I just wanted to shout those out. But yeah, I think the top of this list is solid, and now we have to cut 4 people. Or I should say we have to have 5 people move up. And then we can cut further.
I have 3 for me that are guaranteed on here.
What 3 do you think?
Actually, I'd say 4 to me are just the top 4: Covington, Masvidal, Askren, and Adesanya, for sure. All those guys have pretty entertaining interviews. Especially, I listened to Jorge Masvidal recently on Part of My Take. The Barstool Sports, their main
right.
Listen, he was good on that.
So the only questions I have are Usman and Lee, like, because I could see. I love the interviews that are the guest spots that Iaquinta, Jessica Rose Clark, and Jared Cannonier did. I do think the other ones stand above. I don't know. Yeah, the problem.
I would choose Kevin Lee mostly because
Kevin Lee,
especially his Joe Rogan one.
Yeah.
It was so great to see Joe mention like TriStar, and that's where he ended up. And then because like when Kevin Lee beat Gregor Gillespie, Joe Rogan had like that proud father look.
Oh, for sure.
That was kind of cool.
Well, you got to remember the Kevin Lee episode was directly after his loss to RDA, where he got housed. It was the weekend after. So there's a lot of talk about that, which is pretty crazy. And also Usman's episode of Rogan, so good.
Another good one.
I think you're right, though. I think we have to do the top 4 as Covington, Masvidal, Askren, and Adesanya. I thought I would be the last person to say this. I think you have to pull Askren from that list.
I can see that.
Because I don't think Askren had some really good shit to say, but like I feel like a lot of Askren's best stuff was also on his own podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
And a lot of it was just shit that he'd been saying for a decade that nobody heard because they weren't listening to his shows. And also, I feel like the last half of the year, he definitely toned down the rhetoric a lot. And he toned down the guest appearances a lot. Whereas the other 3 kind of ramped him up. So yeah, I think our top 3 have to be Masvidal, Adesanya,
in
Covington. And now we have to pick a winner. I can't, in good conscience, put Colby in the winning spot. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. He could be, like, first runner-up, if anything, just because he got, like, attention.
Yeah, but just because he got attention, like, some of his interviews would have hilarious jokes. Some of his interviews were just real whiny and contradictory.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Where, like, he's talking about the union, but he also is, like, big upping Dana White, but then he's also shitting on Dana White, and like this is all within the span of weeks because he has terrible contract negotiations, as shown by the fact that didn't get paid great.
I think my winner's it's got to be Israel.
Yeah, I think so too.
Mostly because Jorge and Colby were kind of shitting on each other half the time, and regardless if it's real or not, which at this point I would assume that it's real beef, which sure,
yeah,
whatever.
I think so.
I think that's a lot of that it was a little too close together. They're still both great. They both had good segments on a lot of different podcasts. But yeah, I got to go Israel.
Yeah, and Jorge's also one of those guys where it really depends on the outlet and it depends on the conversation.
Well, and he knows what the fuck he's doing now. He has, and I like Jorge a lot, but he has that angle now. It's like, well, I want to get the top fights, and now I got to start talking shit again, even though I originally said I don't like people who talk shit. He knows though. Like he's with Dan Lambert. Dan Lambert's probably suggesting to like, hey man, you got to.
And even more important than Dan Lambert, he's with the Kawa brothers.
Yeah, so
I agree.
Jorge knows what he has to do.
Yeah, Jorge had fucking excellent guest spots, especially Rogan. Like that Rogan episode was incredible. But yeah, no, Israel Adesanya hanging out, drinking fucking whiskey with Joe Rogan, talking shit, with his fucking Naruto shirt on. It's not, and also all of his other guest spots were straight fire. I don't think it's even close. So, congrats to Israel Adesanya for the best fighter guest on a podcast in 2019 with runners-up Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal.
All right, so this next one is best podcast hosted by a fighter.
Yeah, so this is a new segment for this year, and I wanted to shout out podcasts that are actually hosted by fighters because it's a fucking hard thing to do. Originally, I was thinking about just making this for active fighters, but I figured why? Why not have a fuller category? And also, like, some of these guys are active and then not active multiple times within the same year, so it's hard to, like, how do you distinguish that shit? So why don't you read us off the nominees for best podcast hosted by a fighter?
So we have Anik Forian, which is hosted by UFC commentator John Anik, and former UFC featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight Kenny Florian. We have Believe You Me podcast hosted by former UFC middleweight champion Michael Bisping and stand-up comedian Louis J. Gomez. After that, we have Below the Belt with Brendan Schaub.
That's hilarious.
I just keep saying that joke sometimes. Brendan Schaub. Because he's a draw B.
That's right, dude.
Fight Court, I forgot who the fuck does
King
that.
Mo, hosted by King Mo
Yep.
alongside Rob Tatum.
Oh, Court, like as in King's Court. I should know that.
Well, and it's and they like kind of assess recent rule stuff. It's a really good show. It's on Between Rounds. Patreon.
Rest in peace to this podcast, but it was good. Last Save Frenemies.
Fucking dude.
With Dan Hooker and Israel Adesanya.
Fuck Maori TV for being a bunch of fuckboys who didn't pay them the rest of the contract to keep
So, speaking of Maori and the biracial angel himself, Grange TV with Robert Whitaker and his head coach Fabrizio...
Sure.
Fab. Yeah, his
Fab.
head coach.
Great podcast. It's one of the best podcasts from an active fighter.
Probably my favorite one is when they were playing Mortal Kombat and Robert Whitaker, he has
just rewatched that.
His anger and I feel like his tenacity is from just video gaming or just gaming in general.
100%, dude. Him and DJ, you only ever see them animated when they're losing a video game. It's the best.
I remember too, DJ on his YouTube channel, because he still plays a lot of
Final
PUBG.
Fantasy 14. Oh, okay.
And PUBG, but like I remember someone made an edit where every time he get like a kill or just he would be like hoo hoo hoo, but like they would edit with like an owl.
Yeah.
Every time he do that, and I think he shared that.
It's good.
Half-Cast podcast with Tyson Pedro and Taito Masa, if I recall correctly.
Yep. Pretty inactive this year, but they did put out a couple episodes that were good.
Menace and the Man, I believe, with Dennis Bermudez.
Correct. Dennis Bermudez and his co-host, Stan the Man.
MMA Heat with ESPN and Fox sports analyst Karen Bryant and UFC welterweight Alan Joban.
Yep.
And he's a Versace model. Let's see. MMA Stories. Remind me whose this is again.
MMA Stories is a show on Between Rounds Patreon that is hosted by Jeremy Horn and Monty Cox, who you guys would know. Jeremy Horn fought literally fucking everybody on the planet pretty much at this point in almost every organization on the planet. And Monty Cox is, of course, the infamous Midwest. I wouldn't even say infamous. I would just say the famous Midwest promoter, manager, and all of the above. And god damn, that show is good. They have some crazy stories about the old school days of MMA.
Phone booth fighting with former UFC heavyweight champion Frank Mir and his buddy Richard. No, what's his
Richard
name?
Hunter.
Richard Hunter. Yeah, I was going to say Richard Hunter.
Also, fighter Richard Hunter. I like to say 0-2, but he's still a fighter. God damn it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Pull No Punches. I always forget.
This is the show, the former show, R.I.P. to Pull No Punches, hosted by Kajan Johnson and
that's right.
Shaq.
Yep. Real quick with Mike Swick, with former UFC fighter Mike Swick.
Yep, and his buddy, who I always forget the name of, but he's pretty funny.
Sammy and the Punk, remind me.
R.I.P. to Sammy and the Punk, which I don't think is still around, but that was Sammy. Oh God, I don't remember that dude's actual name, and Josh the Punk Thompson. That show kind of turned into Weighing In, which is another one on this list, which is Josh the Punk Thompson and Big John.
Story Time with Uncle Creepy with Ian McCall. Yep. And
just Ian. TJ sits in, but
that's right. The Truth About Stuff.
That's the podcast from Mike Jackson, who you guys would know from beating the shit out of CM Punk in the funniest fight ever. Also a great photographer. He works with, or at least I know he used to do a lot of photography for LFA back in the day. I'm not sure if he still does.
UFC Unfiltered with comedian Jim Norton. And former welterweight champion Matt Serra.
Yep.
Let's see. The Weekly Scraps. Remind me of this one.
Weekly Scraps is the podcast hosted by Aljamain Sterling.
That's right.
Where he goes through and does basically recaps cards, previews cards, and just talks shit. It's great.
And remind me of Weighing In.
Weighing In is, like I said, it's the one with Big John and Josh Punk Thompson.
Yes. The Writer and the Fighter.
With, David Golden and Jake Smith. Yep. Our best new show of 2018.
And then, of course, You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen.
That's right.
The American gangster himself.
That's right. So I feel like there's a couple of these that stand out way above the others.
Yeah, I think, believe you me, he's got to be up there. I mean, I tune into it a lot. Yeah, that's just me. That's because I have a very. That's because I have a dark sense of humor, like Lewis and Mike.
And Bisping also did pull his eye out during an episode this year.
That's right. I can't remember if he also posted that thing I was telling you about where he gets high as fuck with Daniel Cormier and like someone else.
What?
Yeah, remember I was telling you about that?
I never heard about this.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
I gotta look it up.
Okay, yeah.
He mentioned it one time.
That sounds great, and I need to fucking watch that. How much did DC eat if he got high?
Here, go ahead. You start. Dude, I swear to God, someone posted something.
I'm gonna move Frenemies up because, god damn it was so fucking good, and they killed it. Grange TV, I think, needs to be up there. Fight Court, god damn it, Fight Court's really good. I don't know, man, it's really good. Especially with King Mo talking about just recently, like, dealing with the loss and retirement and stuff. And also just kind of getting King Mo's takes on stuff. Like, that's where I heard the discussion that King Mo had with Rob Tatum about the Greg Hardy inhaler situation. And he talks about back in the day how they had cans of oxygen in the corner in between fights at, I believe, Strike Force or Elite XC, one of those. That they actually cracked, like, it was like a gimmicky pop open a can of oxygen and inhale it kind of thing. But it was interesting. I don't know that it's going to hang with the rest of these. But man, they're putting out good content, so definitely recommend it.
Let's see.
Medicine the Man is real good too. I think I would move that one up. Yeah, I'm gonna move Medicine the Man up. It's really good. Dennis Bermudez is fucking hilarious. And how his progressive grumpiness throughout as the podcast goes on with his co-host is it's real good. MMA Stories is so fucking fire.
I can't find it. Oh well.
I would move these. You know what? I don't know that MMA Stories is going to make it with these other ones, but mostly just because it's pretty young still. I think they've only done, I don't know, maybe 20 or so episodes so far. So I think I'm not going to move it up, but god damn it, those 20 episodes are really fucking good. And I think that show's just starting to really hit its kind of prime. Fun with Fighting, man, really good.
About to have a little concert in the background, so if you hear any guitar, it's okay.
If you were to move one more of these up, and then I'll tell you you're wrong, and I'll tell you which one to do.
If I'm being honest, for sure, B. But
oh God, really?
I'm kidding.
Okay,
no, I'm totally kidding.
Below the Belt's barely about MMA. It's basically the fucking producers explaining to Brennan Schaub what's happening in fighting.
Yeah. I would put Half-Cast Podcast is good.
Yeah, they didn't do enough, I feel like, this year, though. Like, I think they put out 2 episodes the entire year. Maybe 3. Like, they were
I'll let you choose this last one. I'm not even sure.
Oh, man. Weighing In is really good with Big John and Josh Thompson. Again, it's only been around for a little bit, though. So I think that'll probably keep it out. I would say it's either the Weekly Scraps or the Writer and the Fighter.
I'd probably go with the Weekly Scraps just because Aljo just showed up. And it was so good so quickly.
You know what? We'll move them both up and then we'll talk from there.
Okay.
Because they're both really good in different ways. So it kind of just depends on which one that they would prefer. I'll move them both up and we'll talk. So, okay. We got to narrow this down to 3, which means we got to cut 3. I fucking love Frenemies. I don't know that we can put it on here because of the fucking all the turmoil around how that show ended and them fucking over Dan Hooker and Israel.
Yeah. I agree.
So I'm going to move that one down. I fucking love that show, though, and I do not in any way want that to indicate that we don't want that show to come back. Because I absolutely do. Oh, boy. I'm going to say we cut Believe You Me. I don't think it's MMA related enough.
Yeah, a lot of it is. It sometimes takes like 30 minutes for them.
If they get to fight, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like shit on. It's like off-topic stuff for 10 minutes, comedy stuff for 10 more minutes, shit on Harrington for 10 minutes. It's like, all right.
Ask about producer Shannon's tits.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. We got that. All right. So we got to cut one more.
I'll let you do it.
Oh, God damn it. You're going to make me be the one.
Because I already have my winner.
Do you? I think I already know what it is. It might be
between two.
The list.
Between two.
Ma'am. Oh, also shouts out to Trevor playing guitar in the background.
Yep.
You guys got a lot of music to your fucking Saturday night. Luckily, Trevor's not terrible. Oh, wait, Saturday. It's Sunday. God damn it.
I know, that's like you confused. I'm like, wait.
I got confused for a second. Jesus. I guess I gotta go. Man, you know what? I am going to cut The Writer and the Fighter. Only because... man, I kind of want to cut Menace and the Man over Writer and the Fighter. But... So here's the dilemma I'm having. The Writer and the Fighter were off for like half the year. But sometimes Dennis Bermuda shows up to that podcast and doesn't want to do that podcast. And it's just fucking grumpy with his co-host, Stan. Which is kind of hilarious. They also slowed down the drinking on that show, which I feel like is hurting him. You know what? I'm cutting Menace and the Man. It's really good, though. It's really good. Like, this could... I could cut either Menace and the Man or Writer and the Fighter, but it's really close, and they're both very, very good. They're also still kind of... It feels like working out kind of what they want to do with Menace and the Man. They were doing, like, 6 fighters or 6 guests an episode at one point, and it was just chaos. But you know what? I'm gonna. So we got our top 3, which is Grange TV, The Weekly Scraps, and The Writer and the Fighter. I mean, this is gonna be Grange TV, right?
For me, it is, but for close second is the Weekly Scraps.
Yeah, Alger's show is really fucking good. I feel like he's still kind of getting his rhythm with it. And he's been actually having some guests on, which I feel like some of his buddies are hilarious. I want to say maybe Steve was the name of one of them, but I might be fucking that up. But some of the episodes he's done with some buddies recently have been very funny. And he actually has some of the best breakdowns currently in MMA Podcast when it comes to like technique breakdown stuff. Like his breakdown of the twister that Bryce Mitchell hit, and some of the breakdowns that he did of people in his division on their fights. Just really, really good shit. I also feel like I should talk a lot about how The Writer and the Fighter is the best podcast no one is listening to. It's so fucking good. David Golden and Jake Smith are beyond hilarious, and I couldn't recommend them highly enough. So, all right, we got our winner, Grange TV, hosted by Robert Whitaker and Fab, with runners-up The Weekly Scraps and The Writer and the Fighter.
Ozzy, oi, oi, oi.
That's right. I feel like that's a really good list, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I like it.
All right,
now
we got.
So what I'll do is I'm gonna name off this next category, but after I'm done naming off, I'm gonna go run and get a beer.
There you go. Well, here,
because I'm a degenerate.
You know what? Go ahead and get a beer. I will intro this category because it's gonna take a minute. This is the Punch Kick Chill Memorial Award. This is originally a category that was invented by Giant Bomb, again, the video game site. This used to be the best game to drink and get drunk or smoke and get high to. However, we adopted that same category for MMA Podcast last year, and god damn it, is Punch Kick Chill the infinite winner of that. Unfortunately, Punch Kick Chill is now on the in memoriam section. So, this is officially the Punch Kick Chill Memorial Award for Best Show to Drink and Get Drunk or Smoke and Get High to. And as you can tell by the title, this is a show where it doesn't necessarily mean the hosts are drinking. It doesn't necessarily mean the hosts are smoking. They might not even drink or smoke. It might have nothing to do with it. Maybe it's just the shows that I like to get drunk to or high to. Maybe it's the Joe Rogan Fight Companion where no one can stay sober while listening to it or being involved with it. So our nominees for this category are Believe You Me with Michael Bisping and Luis J. Gomez, Collapse MMA with TJ DeSantis and Jordan Breen, RIP. That's the version of Collapse MMA that I'm including in this. Shouts to Jordan Breen. I feel like he's a good portion of why that's in this category. And I respect it. The Half Cast podcast. I mean, I feel like I could listen to Tai Tuivasa talk about anything while I'm drinking a beer. JRE MMA show. He's really upped his whiskey drinking game on there. And thank God he's going with something solid like Buffalo Trace. So, big fan of that. As I mentioned, JRE Fight Companion. Menace and the Man, where they formerly were drinking quite a bit on this show. And then Dennis Bermudez was like, maybe we shouldn't just be drinking hella beers during every episode. MMA Depressed Us. I feel like MMA Depressed Us is a good show to drink a beer or smoke some weed to, because goddamn is there some funny shit it's MST3K, or as I believe they call it, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Was a joke made by somebody at one point. And yeah, it's just, that show I feel like is, as Jordan Breen would say, kiss the finger is good with a beer or a strong drink. Speaking of strong drinks, MMA on the Rocks. Man, MMA on the Rocks is, if there was a show that will teach you more about booze than any other MMA show, definitely that one. Also, shouts out to Bill Welker and his constant fucking, I don't know what word to use for that. His constant push to get pumpkin beers legalized. It's really not fair.
Which thing legalized?
Pumpkin beers. It's not fair that everyone wants to criminalize pumpkin beers and talk shit about them. Yeah. Pumpkin beers are beers too, you guys. The MMA Roadshow, King of the Frosty Beverages. I feel like that one's self-explanatory. Literally are sponsored by a brewery and have been doing shows in bars. So, couldn't be more into that. Also, shouts to Chris smoking a bowl during this category. I feel like that's the most appropriate. And
I think it's pretty appropriate.
Yeah, I think so too. I'll do the same here in just a second. Let's see. MMA Roasted. I feel like that's self-explanatory. You fucking, just based on the guests alone and some of the chaos that happens during that show.
Yes.
And the amount of weed sponsorships Adam Hunter somehow constantly gets. Shouts out to Gino from Speedweed, I have a feeling. Show Money. This is really only on the list because Jason Cruz drank a triple Hennessy during an episode. And
great.
Number one, didn't know you could order triple Hennessy's, but I guess that it makes sense. I just didn't know they would allow you to do it. And he gets sloshed.
So what is it? Because I remember it's like, what, 1.5 of the liquor? So what is it, like fucking 5.5
like
to 6 ounces?
Yeah, it's like 6
so it's 2. It's 2 ounces for like, yeah, Jesus
for
Christ.
Sure. Let's see.
Or 2 fingers, I think, is the ounce.
Yeah, SWAT MMA or Smoke Weed and Talk MMA. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yes, that's extremely appropriate for this.
100%.
Yeah.
And the Valet Tudo Hour.
I mean, of course.
Yeah, and the Valet Tudo Hour, again, show hosted by Hinach, where, I mean, I don't think Hinach smokes weed. I think that another character might smoke weed that's not Hinach, because there's a lot of weed references in Weed Talk, but Hinach is very against the weeds.
He's against the heifer.
That's right.
Unlike Joe Hogan.
That's right. I feel like there's 3 of these that probably stand out above others.
Bless you.
There's at least 3. There might be 4. MMA on the Rocks is a given. That's absolutely on this list.
That one's up there. Depressed Us for me is up there because I kind of want to be high if I'm watching a shitty fight.
To be fair, some of the shitty fights are so much fun. Yeah, I could see Depressed Us on there.
Joe Rogan's for sure. The MMA show.
See, the thing is, the MMA show, not the Fight Companion.
No.
Okay, I can see that argument.
I see Vale Tudo Hour.
Really? See, I don't see the Vale Tudo Hour making it. Mostly because the Vale Tudo Hour is like, yeah, well, I guess on the weed portion, not the drinking portion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, you know what, if there was a category that Vale Tudo Hour fit in, it's a show to smoke grips of weed too and get real confused. And I think the other one has to be the MMA Roadshow.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to
beverages.
Exactly. I do want to give a shout out to the SWAT MMA or Smoke Weed and Talk MMA. Those dudes are hilarious. I really like that
show, but to me it was almost like stuff kind of went over my head when they would get into all these different like intricacies of like weed.
100%. They're talking about CBD percentages on.
I'm like the guy from Grandma's Boy, where it's like, I don't give a shit what it's called, just give me the good shit.
Right. Yeah, you're Seth Rogen and Grandma's Boy. Seth Rogen in Pineapple Express.
That too. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and say top 3 MMA on the Rocks has to be in there.
Yeah.
I think MMA Roadshow has to be in there.
Yep.
So it just is a matter of who else.
I'd probably say Joe Rogan.
You think so?
Because they're usually drinking something, right?
Yeah. Not necessarily. Like Kamaru Usman, they're not drinking shit during that episode.
But I don't think he drinks.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is a lot of fighters don't. Like Max Holloway, they're not drinking. It's really just Adesanya and like, I don't know, retired fighters, I think, are pretty much the only ones that have. Yeah.
I just realized Usman, I always forget he's Muslim, so he can't drink anyway.
Well, yes.
Well, I mean...
Yeah. Depends on how strict he is about that stuff. But, yeah, okay. I'm into that. So MMA on the Rocks, the MMA Roadshow, and Joe Rogan's MMA show are our top 3. We just got to figure out who sits above.
I'd probably go MMA on the Rocks.
I think so,
That's
too.
Because I feel like, what's his face, Bill Welker?
Yeah.
Already kind of speaks in that kind of like, so sit back, let's go ahead and talk.
He's a very calming personality.
Yeah, so like, that's my vote.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go with that as well because he's doing a lot of fun stuff. He's theming episodes around booze. He's doing segments for a month where he's teaching people about booze. He's shouting out pumpkin beers, which I'm a fan of. Yeah, as much as I love the MMA Roadshow, I think the frosty beverage aspect of that show is only occasionally the best part of it.
Yeah.
Whereas MMA on the Rocks kind of just, ironically enough, they kind of just blends all the different ages together and really comes together with a nice product. So, all right, so our winner for the Punch Kick Chill Memorial Award for Best Show to Drink and Get Drunk or Smoke and Get High to is MMA on the Rocks. With runners up, the MMA Roadshow and the Joe Rogan MMA Show.
Also a runner-up, The Sound of Violence, because who wants to listen to us?
Fair. Definitely should be drinking or smoking something while listening to this show, I have a feeling.
Yeah, especially this episode. Jesus
my
Christ.
Gosh. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff to go through, and I don't know if you guys can hear, but girlfriend Karen keeps peeking through that door and looking very upset at me. Because we are going, a little long. All right. Boy, so we saw Best Clip Artist.
Oh my.
This one is going to be interesting. Let me think about how to best do this.
These are the ones I queued up, right?
Yep, these are the ones you downloaded and got on there. So, okay. Why don't we start this shit off? I'm trying to fix this. Oh, God. There we go. Okay,
By the way, so as far as recording this, are we doing like 2 different parts like usual?
Yes. The second part's going to be the top 10.
Okay.
Which we still haven't got to. By the way, long episoding. You guys are going to hear a very angry girlfriend Karen at one point. I have a feeling.
If there's any episode to skip, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so this should be output capture. which I muted. Why? Wait. What? Video count. If I unmute. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out technical shit because I'm worried that if I unmute this, it's gonna.
If there's any episode to skip,
weird shit again. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so here's how we're gonna do this. I have clips lined up for. I pulled all of the best clips that we listened to throughout the year, or that we use on episodes throughout the year. I pulled clean versions of them without the music bed, and we are gonna go through and listen to them one by one. And it should be a lot of fun. So sorry, I'm trying to figure out technical shit. Okay. Unmute this.
If there's any episode to skip,
weird shit again. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so here's how we're gonna do this. Okay, wait. Sorry, Chris, talk for a second because I'm trying to figure out technical stuff.
Yo, testing 1, 2, 3.
Yo, no, I mean you're good. I'm just trying to make sure. Okay, fuck it. We'll do it live. If the video version of this is fucked up, I'll fix it video in post. Okay. So, if I hit play on this, theoretically, this should... Oh, man, I'm going to have to cut all this in fucking the audio version. This is what happens when I have to try and produce... This is why I need an Eric Jackman in my life. Shouts out to New York Rick.
Let's just be Triple C. Get Chris the producer.
That's right, 100% sure. Okay, fuck it, we'll do it live. If the video version of this... Okay, I think this is going to work fine. Okay. So, I'm going to play this first clip, which is Heavy Hands, episode 250, talking about Kane beating Francis Ngannou by breaching whale hook. And Chris, you ready to play this?
Yeah.
All right, here it is.
I'm sort of a masochist, so I want people to know how bad my record has been.
Excellent.
And that way it'll be an even bigger underdog comeback story when Cain Velasquez defeats Francis Ngannou. Against all odds, I'm essentially...
By beaching hook. Prove both of us fucking wrong.
Kane sprays Ngannou in the face with his blowhole and then suffocates him. Yeah, it's going to be great.
And then majestically leaps over Javier Vasquez like Free Willy.
So, that was Conor Rebush and Zane Simon talking about the breaching whale hook that was one of the...
No, that was Phil McKenzie.
Oh, sorry. What did I say? Oh, Zane Simon. You're right. Phil McKenzie. Talking about the breaching whale hook that Kane was throwing in some of the warm-up videos in the lead-up to the Ngannou fight. And god damn it, did that shit crush me. The Free Willy reference jumping over Javier Vasquez. God damn it, it's just really good. So, we're going to go ahead and get into this next one, which is Frenemies, episode 22. Dan tells Anthony Smith to stay down. You ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
I don't even know who you fought last time. In a year, like, they'll just see the win or the loss. Like, either, like, you give it time, That's when Anthony Smith, I was like, stay down, son! Don't forget! I was like, don't forget that you out and took the DQ win. I was like, $2 million will appear in your bank account and you will win.
And they have a rule
super
now.
Good. Super solid. Yeah, I mean, it's a hilarious clip of Dan Hooker. And it's really, these are all just mostly hilarious. There's a couple like insightful ones, but mostly it's just these dudes saying hilarious shit. Speaking of which, this is when this next clip is Submission Radio, episode 185, where Al Iaquinta explains how the UFC has implemented the Al Iaquinta rule. You ready?
Yeah.
This one.
And they have a rule now about me. The Al Iaquinta rule. You can't curse on the mic. So it's pretty cool.
What do you mean? That got implemented after that interview?
Yeah. After the weigh-ins, they do a meeting backstage, and they always bring me up and they say, no matter what happens, you can't curse on the mic. It's the Al Iaquinta rule. So I'm in the history books.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that until he told that.
And so is he talking about, because pay-per-views, you can curse all you want.
Well, you're not supposed to curse on mic, but yeah, especially during TV broadcasts.
Yeah, but pay-per-view, that's not TV, so, I mean, I don't think they give a shit.
I bet they still don't want you cursing on the mic, especially not at the audience, like Ally Quinta did.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. All right, so up next we got number 5, which is, these are just in the order. I pulled them in the order that we use them in podcasts. So up next we got number 5, which is, God damn it, I'd just like to say this is a clip from actually the MMA.
No. Number 4.
You're right, number 4. Sorry, Heavy Hands. Good call.
Yeah.
This is Heavy Hands, episode 270, which it's all about JDS's Rainbow Overhand. You ready?
Yep.
This one does belong in the pantheon of shitty-ass heavyweight punches. I think it was D-Marty on Twitter who dubbed it the Rainbow Overhand. And it goes up into the halls of legend together with Todd Duffy's Sharkeisha hook and Cain Velasquez's breaching whale hook.
Oh yes, I forgot about the breaching whale. Yeah, it was bad. If it was the Rainbow Overhand, then does that make Ngannou's right hand a pot of gold? Because Dos Santos fucking stuffed his face with that shit when he got to the end of it.
Super goddamn good.
I remember that episode of the whole pot of gold stuff in his face. Yeah. That's I think just by default, this one beats 250s because it plays off of it so well.
I think so, yeah. It's a good callback as well, yeah. All right, so up next we have what might be like the most heartfelt and heartbreaking clip that we have. This is Ashley, the MMA nerd, on episode 45, and she talks about her most depressing moment as an MMA fan, which I feel like is like just the most relatable thing of all time. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
The co-main event, Holly Holm versus Amanda Nunes. Nunes knocks out
Should be
Holly
noted
Holm
she's a huge
with
Holly
a
Holm
head
fan.
kick, may I add. It was like Amanda wanted to hurt me more with that. And on it, the second she threw that first head kick, I was just like, I knew it, because she loves with Cyborg. She was just like, she was gonna out Cyborg, and then as soon as she threw that head kick, I was just like, oh no, she's trying to make it hurt worse. And then sure enough, a couple minutes later, it was almost a complete replay of the Betch fight, right on down to the shots on the ground. But anyway, that was officially my most depressing moment as an MMA fan. I cried, and I'm eating mac and cheese, my favorite food, and crying into my mac and cheese, which it didn't do a very good job of comforting me. And then meanwhile, my dad, who I mentioned, is just like, he's just there for the violence. My dad's just like watching the replay and just being so hurtful. And this is probably why I can handle MMA Twitter. My dad's just like, Brian, she's asleep, and just saying a bunch of stuff like that, watching the replay. And I'm over here crying. He's like, oh, you okay, hon? Oh, good. But man, not Amanda Nunes. I'm like, I know, she's great, Dad. She's great.
Super fucking great.
That's good.
I feel like everybody has had that moment in their, if you've ever been a fan of an MMA fighter, that you just have like that, but I don't know if anyone's ever explained it quite as sadly as
Yeah, for me, off the top of my head, I was really bummed when Dominic Cruz lost to Cody Garbrandt, and
that was a tough one.
There's another one too. I don't know what else. That's just off the top of my head, but.
All right, so up next we got the clip from Our MMA Show UFC 240 review, where Jimmy compares Cyborg to Ulysses S. Grant. You ready?
Yeah.
What's it like to be in a crazy bloody fight? Because you have been opened up several times.
Yep. and that's like I started saying before. It kind of sucks that when you Google image search me, it's like the first one. It's kind of cool. It's kind of awesome. It's kind of dumb though too. At the same time, like you Google image search me, and it's just like blood all on my face. It's gonna be like one of the Jim Miller fights or like, it's okay. It's like
what's it like to fight with that?
It feels like. So the first Jim Miller fight was the first time I'd actually had like blood like in my face, like trying to fight, and it basically like kind of like take like a hot shower and like just like look up in the water and it's just like coming down.
Oh shit! I
kind of
introed the wrong one.
Pay attention. Not directly in your eyes, but like hitting the top of your head and just dripping down. It's kind of tough.
Which one did you listen to?
Goes, it's so
the number 6 one.
Okay.
It's like, since Fitz in a fighter.
Very oily.
Keep listening. We'll
so
be
it's
back.
difficult in that regard.
But like in that Jim Miller fight, like when looking up at a hot shower.
Yeah.
How do you keep fighting?
You're just like there's so much adrenaline going, and there's so much you're so caught up in the moment. It doesn't even bother you. Like it doesn't like blood did not bother me the slightest bit. I know sometimes people are like thrown off by it. Didn't bother me the slightest bit. And I think.
Could you see?
I could see. It's just a little distracting. It's like somebody just keeps like itching your forehead or something. It's just like a little bit of a distraction. But
when you watch it back.
Yep.
What do you think?
I wish I had finished the flying heel hook.
But like in terms of like the blood and all that, like it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Not 1 ounce of you been like, man, that's almost dangerous.
No. I mean, I don't think it's dangerous. It's your forehead. It bleeds a lot. I mean, like you get a lot of blood in your body. I mean, I left a good amount on the canvas, but I was never super lightheaded during the fight. Like I was tired after, like big time adrenaline dump. Like after the fight, I was exhausted. But I was exhausted because it was a crazy fight, not because I lost a lot of blood. But no, it's just blood happens. I remember, blood's just some red sweat. That's pretty much it.
So apologies. That was actually Fits in a Fighter episode 9 with Joe Lozon. The way I have this set up, it's not helping me get these right. But holy shit, Joe Lozon talking about what it's like to be in a bloody war, and then just saying at the end. Well, first off, he says it's like looking up into a hot faucet. Or in the shower, and then he says, "It's just red sweat."
Sweat, yeah.
That is some fucking hard shit. Joe Lozon is a bad motherfucker. So, yeah, that is a ridiculous clip, and only somebody like Joe Lozon can do that shit. So, all right, this next one is actually our MMA show, UFC 240 review, where Jimmy compares Cyborg to Ulysses S. Grant.
Ulysses S. Grant was not a great strategist. He just knew if I have 70,000 troops and you have 30 and we both lose 25, I win. That was Ulysses S. Grant's strategy. I have more men than you. I have more guns than you. My army's bigger. I have 60,000. You have 40,000. We both lose 35. I win. That's how Cyborg has fought her entire career.
I feel like that is one of the... like Jimmy Smith being a history teacher, he is one of the only people that could make that kind of analogy, yeah. And goddamn is it a really good one. And that's why I really like that show. I feel like that's a good way to kind of get a feeling for what that show is like. All right, up next we got, speaking of getting a feel for what shows are like, there has maybe never been a clip that more encompasses a show than this clip of The Writer and the Fighter, episode 41, comparing fighters to chefs. And, it's just so good. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
If Gaethje Cowboy can't get you excited, I don't know what can.
You know what? Not fight topic at all, but I'll tell you what does get me excited is pizza. And I had this thought last night. And I'm gonna throw this out there to you, and I have this theory, and I want to hear your input.
Okay.
The person who invented pizza should be considered the greatest chef of all time.
I feel like it goes back to that Conor McGregor thing.
What?
I feel like like you're one of the most important chefs of all time, not necessarily the greatest.
Is not.
Really, really good, right?
As an Italian and fellow pizza snob, I agree.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those things where like that perfectly encompasses that show where Jake tries to take it off the rails and talk about food, and David has the perfect succinct way to tie it back in.
Yeah, I can't not agree anymore.
Perfect. All right, up next, we got this next clip of Severe MMA, episode 221, talking about when Cyborg plays games. You ready?
Yep.
There's not many people who can kind of play the game that Cyborg tried to play. And maybe Cyborg was thinking that she's more valuable to them in their eyes than she is. And obviously, Dana's willing to cut ties, so it hasn't really worked.
Yeah, when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you go to fucking Bellator.
Shawnee podcast with maybe one of the greatest jokes of the year.
That's already up there. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's fucking hilarious, especially because of how popular Game of Thrones is.
Especially at that time, that was right during the finale too.
Yeah.
Oh man, just such a good.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you go to Bellator.
Yeah, you win or you go to fucking Bellator. It's so
I mean, I don't disagree, Sean. So.
That's hilarious. All right, up next we got the co-main event podcast, episode 367, DC and the ATM Sledgehammer. You ready?
Yep.
Would watch, man. It's hard for me to think of a matchup that I would be more hyped about, honestly, than if you were going to do Francis Ngannou versus Daniel Cormier.
And see, that is the thing, too, is that you'd be able to tell him, like, hey, here's one that people will be excited about. But then for Daniel Cormier, like, it might be telling him basically, hey, there's an ATM around the corner. Go in there, just punch in this code we give you, and 9 times out of 10, it'll spit out a whole bunch of money at you, and all you have to do is open up this big bag and catch the money in there, and then you go on your merry way. Yes, 1 time out of 10, a giant sledgehammer just comes flying out and hits you right square in the forehead. But that's rare. Probably what's going to happen is the money thing. Like, just a bunch of money for you.
Yeah.
Small risk of sledgehammer.
Super good. Classic co-main event, right?
Shouts out to someone chopping some vegetables in the kitchen.
Is that what that is? I was trying to figure out what that noise was. That's
that or someone's just excitable right now or bored and they need a beat.
That's hilarious. All right. So up next we got Fights Gone By, episode 163. Valentina is in the desert, and holy fuck, this clip. Are you ready?
This is amazing. This is already up in my thing. Yeah, this is already up in my number. This actually might be my winner. I don't even give a fuck. We'll see.
So good. All right, you ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
Valentina Shevchenko, because we had to make it about her. She came out and she was like, well, no, I could fight Weili Zhang, but I don't think she should jump the line again. She should have to do something in this division first or defend her title. And my reaction to that was like, yes, if you enter a new division, you've got to fight someone good like Priscilla Cachoeira before you get a title shot. And then, if you've won a title, you need to defend it against someone on 2-fight losing streak coming up from the division below, like Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Valentina just full of shit. Amazing Valentina thread gone up today. Posted picture of herself in, Arabian dress in not Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi. And comments are just, she's in the desert, but the comments are absolutely fucking parched.
It's so goddamn good.
The comments are parched.
They're absolutely fucking parched. Oh man, that's a really fucking good clip. All right, up next we have. Oh wait, let me take a sip of this.
I think someone commented. I thought it was funny. I think they said we be simping in here, boys. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
This. I mean, actually, that kind of makes sense. But actually, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Now I think about it, that makes a lot of sense for someone to say that.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, this next one is co-main event episode 371. Oh wait, let me take a sip of my beer. Which is about Dana doesn't know who Kadyrov is. You ready?
Yep.
This a tweet from Damon Martin about Dana White being asked about Ramzan Kadyrov being at UFC 242. Dana White's quote, "I don't know him and I didn't see him." You fucking kidding me? You expect us to believe that even though it's been a swirling news item around Khabib Nurmagomedov, your UFC lightweight champion, that one of the troubling things about him is how good of friends he seems with the Chechen dictator, who, by the way, has been to UFC events before, but can't go to them just everywhere, Chad. He can't go to the ones in Las Vegas. He can't go, maybe, catch a fight night in London kind of thing, because he's got damn international sanctions against him. But he can go to Abu Dhabi, and he can go to Russia and see fights. And you're gonna tell me after all this time, you never even heard the name Ramzan Kadyrov? Is that the guy? Is the guy who used to play defenseman for the Flames? No, I don't know him. Don't know him. Didn't see him. Didn't hear anything about it. Can't tell you. Are you kidding me?
I remember listening to this. This has to be up there. Defenseman for the Flames. That's just
super good. Yeah, and also just like, again, gotta love Co-Main Event Podcast because they're talking about shit that a lot of people would be scared to bring up. So I am a big fan of that one. Up next, MMA Stories, the Wild Wild Midwest Days. This is a crazy fucking story that Jeremy Horn tells, talking about the one time he fought in a warehouse. You ready?
Yeah.
That's all they have. No cage, no ring, just the mats. And they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You guys are going to fight on the mat, and we have these guys that have these old school little kicking shields. Like the little, 3 foot by 1 foot shields that you would hold. They used them in American Gladiator when they beat each other up. And these guys are going to run around the outside of the mat, and if you get close to the edge, they're just going to push you in. So like, like no joke, just like you would see in the stupid karate movies. But that's really what was going on. On top of that, there are men and women in tuxedos and evening gowns drinking champagne, watching us fight. There's like 20 or 30 people watching us. So yeah, even more so. I'm thinking, okay, they're going to film us fighting, and they're going to kill us all and throw us in a ditch.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Jeremy Horn has some wild fucking stories like that on that show. It's worth listening to. Oh, and then we have our last two clips, which are actually from the same episode. Between the Links, episode 26. Holy fucking shit, this episode. Holy shit. I'm not, you know what? I'm not even going to set these up. I'm just going to say, holy fucking shit, these two clips. Let's do the first one first, and then we'll come back here before the second one. You ready?
I got it.
Here's the deal with Greg Hardy. It's always something. It's an illegal knee. It's an inhaler. It's a broken hand. Dude, this guy has more banana peels he slips on than Curious George. I don't know what to do with this guy. And let me take one shot. I know I got 10 seconds. One shot in Inhaler Gate because we all forgot about it because they booked the Volkov fight. Dude, inhaler, you have asthma. You have an inhaler. You're in the cage, and you're like, hey, is this cool? You don't already know if it's cool. Is this cool? That's like you're at the Scripps spelling bee, and you're like, hey, I got a dictionary. Is this cool? No, it's not cool. This is the spelling bee. Dude, you're in a cage fight. No, it's not cool. You should already know that. You have asthma. How do you find that out after the second round? It's all right? Hey, guys, I'm just going to shoot this up in my arm. These steroids, they cool? No, they're not cool, bud. Sorry. You don't know that yet? Please. It's always something with Hardy.
John Franklin on there. Absolutely fucking lighting Greg Hardy on fire. Oh, god damn it, that clip was good. But from that same episode, your man's Aaron Bronstetter was the guest on this episode. And Aaron Bronstetter was asked to give his take on the Nick Diaz situation. And
I remember this.
Holy fuck, does he give a take on the Nick Diaz situation? Or the Nick Diaz interview with Harry Al-Hawani, I should say specifically.
Yeah, I remember this.
Oh man, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
All right, Aaron. What did you take away from that conversation? What stood out to you? Once that interview is over today.
What I got for the Nick Diaz interview is, when you go to the grocery store and you go and you check all the milk and you look at the dates and some of them are expired, some of them aren't. But then when you go to your car in the parking lot, you go and you get in your car and you drive, and then when you figure out you're driving, you see the guy next to you and he gives you a look, and then you rev your engine a little bit and it's time to race, but then the guy doesn't want to race, but you still want to race him, and then I know the guy's got a family and stuff, but I just can't wrap my head around why this guy with a family wants to race me all of a sudden, and then so I race him, but he's not going to race me. So then how am I supposed to race him? You know what I mean? If he's not going to race, who's going to race in this situation? So then when you eventually get to the lights and you signal left, but then you want to make a right turn, and then suddenly you realize you haven't picked up your dry cleaning yet, so you make a U-turn, and you go to the dry cleaner, but it's closed because it's Remembrance Day, Veterans Day, whatever, but usually the things don't close that day, so you're just a little bit confused. And then you see the guy from that store at the liquor store, and you say to him, like, yo, what's up? Like, why aren't you open today? Because the dry cleaner shouldn't be closed on this. It's not a tax store holiday, right? So then the guy says, you know what, I'll buy you a beer. It's cool now. I get it. And then, so eventually, I just know I'm going to get my dry cleaning. You know what I mean? You guys know what I'm saying? So that's my take.
Yeah, I know there's the term save the best for last, but that's definitely up there.
Honestly, it was I intentionally did not do that. I put them in the order that we posted them. But...
And I know maybe it's a little unfair because that clip is about twice as long as half the clips on here, but I think it's kind of appropriate because it's the narrative.
Yeah,
it's unfolding. So
100%, and it's just like it's just.
So let me see where we're at with these finalists because I'm gonna piss my pants pretty soon. But let's.
Word. Well, so yeah, we're gonna go on break right after this one, but
yeah, I'll wait it out.
Yeah, but I think 100% Jack Slack has to be on here.
Yes, that has to be on there. The one we just listened to has to be on there.
Yes, the Aaron Bronstetter impression of Nick Diaz, 100%.
The co-main event with Kadyrov being a professional hockey player has to be on there just because of that comment alone, in my opinion. I also think Severe MMA with the Game of Thrones cut should be in there.
Game of Thrones one is really good too.
Joe Lozon is solid.
Yeah, Ashley the MMA nerd. Third.
Yeah, I think end it with those two, and then Joe Lozon and Ashley's.
Yeah, so
and we kind of go from there.
Right, so we'll go the MMA nerd.
Joe Lozon's.
Fixing a Fighter. Severe MMA.
Severe MMA, Game of Thrones.
Jack Slack.
Slack. And then Kadyrov being a professional hockey player.
Yep.
And then the
Between the Links, Nick Diaz. Oh my god, that Nick Diaz impression.
Like the Greg Hardy one was solid too, but I'd rather the Nick Diaz is funnier and sadder.
Yeah, they're both really good clips though. John Franklin on that is fucking so angry and so funny. Okay, so man, I think Fights Gonna Buy has to be up there. That
has to be up there.
It's
for
just
sure.
so
It's
emblematic
finalist.
of who Jack Slack is and how good it is. I think Between the Links, Aaron Bronstetter has to be on there.
Yeah, and then after
I've never heard such a good Nick Diaz impersonation on the fly. I would say it's either
I'd probably say MMA nerd or I see we can get. I like Joe Lozon. We can get rid of that one though.
Yeah, I think it's either MMA nerd or Severe MMA with the Bellator reference.
Yeah, I think I'm going. Well, you know how much I like to shit on Bellator. I mean, I'll watch Bellator, but if I'm honest, I'm like, I don't really need Bellator. So
you think Severe MMA?
Yeah, it's just because it was just deadpan delivery, like just zero hesitation.
And it's so sharp and off the cuff. Yeah, I have to give it to that too. Although I do want to seriously say how great that episode, that clip from Ashley was, and just that episode
awesome.
In general. She is like the biggest Holly Holm fan, and to hear her just absolutely melt down during
that reminds me too. I saw Betchko evidently wants a rematch of Holly Holm.
Jesus. Okay. I mean, we're giving this Aaron Bronstetter, right?
Yeah, you have to.
It's not even close, right? It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. And he did it on the fly, from what I could tell. And you could hear how the two hosts didn't catch on at first to what he was doing. And it took him about 20 seconds to figure it out. In this,
well, you hear like that. You know when you like someone. Not all people laugh. So when you laugh and you're trying not to laugh, you're like, whatever. But like that raspy whine that people make too when they're trying so fucking hard.
Yeah,
not to laugh.
100%.
Like I heard it immediately. I was like, "Who the fuck's laughing?" Like, that's not Pulver, right? What the fuck?
Some of it was me, but most of it was them. Yeah. Oh my god! All right, so we have our winner for best clip artist, which it's really just best clip. I just wanted to say clip artist because I found that reference funny. But its best clip is Between the Links, episode 26. Aaron Bronstetter just doing a fucking deadpan Nick Diaz in the best way. With runners up, Fights Gone By, episode 163, Jack Slack talking about the thirst in the desert around the parched comments around Valentina's desert picture, and Severe MMA episode 221 with Sean Sheehan dropping the fucking firest Game of Thrones reference. So there's also some runners up with Heavy Hands this past weekend. If I Did It, Eugenius Robinson Show Stomper, more Heavy Hands. There's a lot of Heavy Hands ones on that I could have picked. Also, shouts out to Richard Hunter doing a Zabruder style breakdown of the BJ Penn strip club parking lot fight. That one could have been up there as well.
Yep.
So, just super funny. But we are going to go ahead and take a break since we are going so long. And girlfriend Karen has already tried to Kool-Aid Man her way through the door about 4 times. So we are going to go and take a break. And when we come back, we have our top 10 MMA podcasts of the year. As well as I think we have a couple other categories that we're going to wrap up, time permitting. So we will be back in just a minute. And I don't actually have a clip. So here is the outro music. We'll be right back.